Hello. What's going on here? Oh, sorry, wrong country. Forgot where I
Hello,
was.
everybody.
Yes, I'm in Los Angeles. I shouldn't speak that way at all. Anyway, no, that's not true. Hello, Fanny. How are you today?
I'm doing great. What about you?
Uh, it's an okay day. I'm doing okay. I just had an 1,100 calorie breakfast, and that feels real good. It's my largest meal of the day. I'm trying to stay something under 2,000 calories a day. With the intention of improving my blood sugar numbers, which are continuing to improve overall. I do find an interesting situation where if I don't get the alcohol off my finger, I can spike a high reading. So I look at myself again and it comes out okay. It's like, oh, the alcohol throws it off. Got it. All right. Dry that finger.
You were diluting it.
Yeah, alcohol also is chemically so similar to sugar. It's just sugar with an extra OH added. That I think traces of alcohol are tripping the sugar detector.
But would it give like a number or just error or like the when they give like the high?
It doesn't show an error, but for example, a week ago I hit a 206. I'm like, huh? Tested again, got a 130.
Okay.
Just bang bang. Literally a minute apart, 2 minutes
Immediately
apart.
apart. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that it was contamination in the process and
Yeah.
not
Okay.
actually that one of my fingers had a lot of sugar in it and the next one didn't. I don't think that's likely. Yeah.
You can't tell it's you cheating. You like dipping your finger on sugar and again.
Yeah, that's it. Honey with that sugar? No, actually, I wasn't. But I would love to lick honey. Not going to do it. Nope. No honey. No honey for me. I've had all of that. I don't get any more honey.
My problem here is the maple syrup.
Oh, I bet. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
maple syrup. Mm-hmm.
It is
I
my
remember
only thing to go with my coffee since I moved to Canada. Yeah.
that. Yeah. I bet I could have fake maple syrup, and it's been so long since I had the real stuff. You could fool me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a claim today. It's in the
Oh.
title and everything else. We're not sneaking up on anybody.
Um,
How would you say that claim?
oh, did I get some notes? Wait a minute. Let me grab something here.
Yes.
I did. I guess I didn't get prepared as I thought I was
Okay.
because I saw the thumbnail you putting on, and I was
Yep.
like, okay, let's just write down. I like to keep a handwritten track of my things at least before it comes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, mm, claim number 4. So we getting into a month of those this series, like number 4
Cool.
a week. That's good. There is no war between the sexes.
There is no war between the sexes.
Yeah, something like this. I think it was. Yeah, might not be using the right words you did, but it's something like that.
Okay. There is no war between the sexes. Okay. So let's define terms. What are sexes?
Well, here I think we're gonna try to simplify to biological sex:
Mhm.
man, woman,
Okay.
female, male,
Yep.
like that.
Yep. So
We
we're going
can go through
to
all
ignore
the.
the slight example where people's gender is not cis, and just clump everybody into the male and
Well,
female categories as far as a general trend.
yeah, we doing it. I guess it's good to go through the definitions on biological
Sure.
sex, male, female, and
Hmm.
then try to translate that to what would be the binary gender standards. No, the old type of right,
Sure.
left, or middle column.
Sure.
Man,
Sure.
woman, or something else. Let's say.
Right. Right.
Uh, then maybe we even like slash sexuality and personality, which could be like a more fluid spectrum, where I guess there is a lot of wars now.
Yeah.
I guess on the LGBT, LGBTQAI plus whatever, uh,
Hmm.
many spectrums of personality and sexuality apparently have been given names as new genders, and maybe we bring down to simplify that as maybe even like you just talk about the old war or the previous war. I would say that it was like a fourth wave of feminists that would be
Okay. So
seeing a type
so
of
in
man woman war, like this war of who is misogynistic, who is
okay.
misogynistic. um
So by war, we're
we
not talking
understand
about
that might
either
have the other side of like the woman that hate men.
side. Hmm.
They might have men that hate women,
Hmm.
and we might be
I've met
standing
both
in
of
the
time.
middle.
I've met both. Yes.
You see examples on both sides, and we might be in the middle saying, well, the healthiest way of facing this, or like there are biological differences, and but I would not approach as a war. I would say that it's more of a complement, for they keep going on
Okay.
procreation and biologically speaking, more than, which I believe would be a voice of smallest and loudest minorities on both groups. We hear about
Okay.
incels versus woke feminists. I don't
Okay.
know. Maybe I'm reducing to like a very, very small
No,
group.
I'm going to ask all those questions. You've just given me a whole stack to ask. So, as far as war goes, we're not talking about what's going on between Russia and Ukraine kind of level shooting, serious stuff. It's more like a struggle of ideas would be the kind
That's
of
right.
war you mean. Has there in the past been a war between the sexes?
Hmm. I think there was at some point a struggle
Hmm.
for women to conquer same rights,
Hmm.
but there were times that were really gender based, and other times there were other reasons,
Hmm.
political and even societal, contribution, let's say, as
Yeah.
being the army, some type of oligarchy that was dictated by some type of a representation or contribution, which women would not be even allowed yet to do. And I think we have gone over that part. I think the first, second waves, generations of feminists have reached equality,
Okay.
by law. Um, I might not
Certainly
be,
in Canada and the US, that seems to be the rule of law is that
yeah,
not allowed to make limitations except for special reasons. We can
yeah.
talk about what those might be.
Well, there is an acceptable and a, I guess, a positive sexism that still exists,
Okay.
and I would probably not oppose to many of those, like which some more feminists called themselves feminist women would be even offended or not for it. I would keep, I guess, as some right that women have reached by showing that they are capable of a lot of things that men can
Mhm.
do, but probably not equally biologically speaking.
Okay. What would those examples be where we should still have carve outs?
Well, I like to point out just the social idea of chivalry. I don't think it's something negative, but then are different levels of what is considered um, negative, and maybe even go to the term of the toxic masculinity versus femininity, because I think we both agree that the term toxic should not be exclusive to one gender.
Right. Right. Sure. Sure. Chase notes that. Sorry, 92% of domestic abuse defendants are male. So the law definitely hits up males for uh, committing domestic abuse, and that 77% of the victims are female, according to Women's Aid Organization in the UK. Thank you, Chase. Um, so in terms of like legit legit carve outs, one really big one goes back to war is conscription. Do you think that's a good call out? Should we conscript men when we don't conscript women? And by conscript, I mean draft into the armed forces, forced to fight in a war.
Well, I've always felt very comfortable, so it becomes a very anecdotal and personal experience
Mhm.
based opinion, that I always felt comfortable to be in Brazil and know that I would not be forced to military service.
Okay, so that was
While men,
partially beneficial to you.
so it's like, yeah, you could even say like, yeah, that is one of the things I'm like, I'm totally for it. Like, yeah, I understand there are women that want to to serve, and they can do that voluntarily. um so, but no, I might even think like in that level of like, even not talk about the genders. I'm
Mm.
more of a libertarian that I don't think anybody should be forced, but yeah, I'm fine with the comfort of being a woman, not be forced to the service.
Okay. So you're good with that particular call out. All right. Carve out, I should say. I suppose there's the opposite carve out, and that is that limitations on abortion only affect women. But I don't think that we could
I think
legally
that's a
somehow
very
make limitations on
question.
abortion affect men because
No, I actually have a
barring
lot to say about this. We could probably make an entire video just about this,
okay.
because my point of like, when it comes to abortion, I think it is a bad sexism when women can choose to just abort their children, but then when if they decide to keep, then it's both of them responsibility. So in that sense, I guess I would be more not for impeding the woman to do the abortion, because I'm more pro-choice than I would be pro-life when you have to choose, which is not a real dichotomy, but people put like that. So I would say, in the end, I think the woman's right of deciding over her body should be over uh, the pro-life
Mm-hmm.
narrative, considering, of course, some limitations. I'm probably not for abortion a day before or farther than 20 weeks, but I would
Mm-hmm.
probably even go farther than some place where 9, 12 weeks, I think, is too early to sometimes know and get the abortion. Anyways, um, when it comes to the choosing to have the kid and to have a responsibility over the kid, then it should be something that the man would not be forced to be the father and responsible,
Okay.
if the woman choose to keep going on the pregnancy and doesn't really have a partner
Okay.
consenting.
So if I impregnated somebody
Yeah,
and they disagreed with me about what to do,
yeah,
I get to choose, not me, right?
yeah.
Okay. And do I have the response? Do I have the option of opting out of being a parent or
I
being
think
responsible?
we should give men that option when
Hmm.
they don't have the option to choose most of the time.
Okay, so if we take away their control on abortion or not, we would correspondingly need to take away some of their socially enforced responsibility.
Well, I think they don't have any voice on the abortion. uh, I think, I would say, I don't know specific how. If there is any
Yeah, I
place where,
think they don't have a
if
legal
for me
voice.
to have an abortion, I would have to have my husband to sign, or I could just walk into a clinic and get an abortion, which I believe it is possible. You
And,
just need the mom to be pregnant and do not want to have
yeah,
the baby. to do the abortion. So in that sense, I think yes, men should not be forced, or at least be able to opt out of the responsibility and
Okay.
not be brought to a judge and forced to pay in,
Yeah. You showed me something from your television screen. Could you give me the context for this? What is this that we're looking at
Oh,
related
those
to
are
genetics?
tests, questions that we have on the citizenship, Canadian citizenship exam here in
Okay.
Canada. And I thought it was interesting that they are sexist specific about the female genital mutilation, really excluding that they don't seem to care about male genital mutilation, after born boys, or some uh, have had circumcision
Hmm.
only, and just for religious traditions. So
Yeah.
they actually don't protect the male kids, or the man in general. I would say, uh, in Brazil we have example of domestic abuse laws being so sexist that men don't feel comfortable to report domestic abuse and violence in Brazil, or they are usually dismissed
Mm,
and turned around by the other, sometimes mocked by, oh yeah, your wife beat you, so you're not strong enough or not manly enough to control your wife, or something like this. And
yeah.
I think this the pendulum has gone quite far on the one way, and forgotten the men to be just, you know need protection and help as well.
Okay. Do I take it that your preference for fixing this imbalance is to make male circumcision or male genital mutilation not okay in Canada?
I feel very uncomfortable to say that we need to ban more things, because I think that is not the case. I would say that this is already in the law. It's just the way that we have been interpreting, as under religious freedom, we have been allowing quite things we would not allow in other times.
Okay. I know I'm heading down a particular path here, and I don't want to take you too far down that path,
Yeah,
but I'm
that's fine.
wondering, what could change your mind to allowing female genital mutilation to the same degree that we allow male genital mutilation?
Oh, I, I, I don't think I'm willing to take that path. I just don't think it's right to do any type of genital mutilation. And I think those are already things we protect when you say to people, don't harm other people. We don't need to make a special law saying don't harm a specific the pee stuff like
Mhm.
that, like, well, that is a type of harm and is a type of damage, in permanent damage, huh? That's what we're talking. And then maybe even we'll tiptoe over the transgendering kids, which I might be fine with, the transitioning, the
Mhm.
transgenderism, but for adults and not for minors. And that's another thing that has been a hot conversation around the United States, huh?
Mhm. Mhm. I'd like to have that conversation with you, so I'm not gonna talk about it right now, so I don't throw spoilers for future streams. Okay, so what could you learn that would lean you more toward believing that there was still actively a war between the sexes? And I'm assuming that we're talking about Canada, the US, maybe Brazil?
Okay. Well, I think
You tell me the context.
it might have some legs of, like, races that we still need to go through, social sexism that make women uncomfortable to behave just like men, or just as natural as men would, or to be open about their sexual life. But I don't think that is something we need to go fix ourselves. I don't think that is the job of the government. I would actually like to see less government when it comes to
Okay.
social life. So it's difficult. I think the laws should be as we've said, the justice should be, as we try to say, keep repeating to ourselves, blind,
Mm-hmm.
and treat people equally. And I think we do that. I understand there are data that people take and misinterpret to turn into still a very sexist environment for women at work or politics or anything, uh, which I might not agree. I think it's just natural options, which now we cannot dictate people to behave like this or that just to have results.
Okay. Chase brings up that Oxfam says that women are paid 24% less than men for comparable work across all regions and sectors. Um, I don't know what scope all regions and sectors relates to. 2/3, because if I include
I
the
think
Middle
it's
East, well,
exaggeration.
yeah.
No,
uh,
and it could be. Look, I can see that data being able to be collected just because, in my personal experience,
mhm,
and seeing across the uh, what I came from when my father graduated in the 80s. uh, I think he had three colleagues in his class as a medical student, and when I
3
graduated,
colleagues in his class as a medical
yes,
student that
yes,
were female.
they were not
Out of
like
how
a
many?
big class. I think they were like 60.
Okay,
My class
5%.
was already 120, and we actually had 60% women
Mhm,
across
mhm,
the entire university. So from one generation to the next, women were very incentivized and never said you can't do this because you're a woman. I
mhm.
have never heard that, and I think it's a little of a myth to say
Yeah,
that. But at the same time, I've always noticed that we have the natural biological difference and choices, and even if we seek for a career and we're very dedicated to, there is a moment and time because we work much more on the clock of like the reproduction clock. We have
mhm,
to stop, we have to keep going live. Many people will make choice. I used to love the shifts, and after I got pregnant, I didn't want to do that anymore. And even before that, I would work 72 to 84-hour shifts a week when my father, my brother works 120. And just because they were work more, they wanted to work more, they didn't feel that need at home of themselves. And I already wanted to stay at home more. I wanted to be a farm and mom and dog mom and cat mom and mom and do other stuff. So I think it's natural.
that's sleeping 48 hours a week. I mean, that's assuming that they're working and sleeping and they don't do anything else. 120 hours a week. That's just God. I, I, that's crazy.
So I think it's natural that people will find those data that, oh, woman makes less money in the same jobs. And yeah, but we've never been paid different prices of shifts per hour. We would receive 120 reais an hour per shift, and it
Mm,
never has been like, oh, you're gonna make 115 because of, oh, you're a woman. So this inequality that people find, the wage gap, which
mhm.
for me it's a misinterpreted data that became a myth to the
Okay.
ultra feminists of today. It's just something that is natural. It's just like saying why there's not more women in politics or in physics or in science or in some sectors. It's just because we don't want to do that. And if we become seekers of equality for like we just want the equality of results, we might even be forcing people, dictating people to do things they don't really naturally originally wanted just for the result. I think we have reached a level of equal opportunities, and we can see some women beating men even on the physical expectations. But those are, people are that individuals, and
Mhm.
that's what happens. We I don't think we can control that.
Okay. The other part of Chase's claim was that 2/3, or Chase's claim relating to Oxfam, whether it's Chase's claim or not, it's not the point. Um, 2/3 of illiterate adults are women, a proportion that has remained unchanged for 2 decades. So if it's true that women are more often illiterate than men, is that a problem? And is that something that would indicate that there's a struggle between sexes?
I don't know. I think I would say no. I would say that maybe today what I've heard, I don't, we're not really going into any sources here. I guess for some people might be more interested if would be more interested if we had this type of source. But I've heard people saying that the problem now is that we don't have enough men graduating and getting good jobs and good salaries as well as women, and that's why the sexual market is so shifted and people are not being able to pair up anymore to
The
partner.
sexual market. Tell me what you mean by the sexual market. On one end, I could say
Well,
sex
I
workers. I
see
think on the
around
other end,
my
you're talking
friends.
about opportunities for getting married,
I,
or
I see the generation. My generation was, what happened is like a lot of women really went to school and graduated, had have good jobs and some certain level of independence, which the generation before might not have. Now they can choose better, and ends up that we fall into this very irregular and heterogeneous pyramids of matching the sexes. So we have a woman that would be too picky and never find men, and a lot of men that fall below the standards and become incels. They cannot find anybody that really find them attractive and date. And that I've heard also that other people arguing about how the level of um, men single, and not just single but incapable to find partners and have sex, it's something that would uh, cause more violence in society too.
hmm hmm Chase asks what data shows that women don't work or as hard as or as often as men. You gave data that was anecdotal from your own experience relating to your own family of you working 70 something, them working 120 something hours. Do you have data beyond your own family? Do you have uh, things that relate to a larger group of people that would illustrate that?
No, just across my own experience, I know was just an option of
Okay.
when we talk, when we have now we have more nurses women than men in
Mhm.
Brazil at least. And we know the way that they choose. We all talk about how we choose to work much less than our partners, and it doesn't seem to be a problem to real people, that live have the lived experience and know what is everyone's struggle, each one's of like it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Indeed. Okay. So, uh, as far as in the past, uh, being a war between the sexes, we could pick different times in history, and you'd probably have a different values. Yes, different, not value. I don't mean that your values would be different.
Yeah, we
You
see
would answer that question
the,
differently for different parts of
the
history.
moral change with time.
Okay.
Well,
So,
yeah.
when would you say that you switch to lean for to lean against that we're having a war? Was that within your
Mm.
lifetime?
Well, I would say that I can see that in old books when you read, and sometimes fictions will just try to play a retract to draw a retract a picture of what was in that period. So if you read anything around the 19, even 1950s, 1960s, which is not that far, our parents have lived that, you see stories, fictional stories or whatever, that say a character, a strong woman character, would be always confronted with, but you're a woman, you're not supposed to be here, go back to the kitchen.
Mhm.
And on jokes of go back to the kitchen, make me a sandwich, give me a blowjob, something like this. Even in the very close times, is still a funny joke, let's say. And and I think it's the picture of like, yeah, we I think we have sexism. There are some that I might not myself be comfortable just because of my own experience in life and seeing other people say reporting the same problems. And still today, where we are so progressive that
Hmm.
everything is possible. You can change your gender, you can change your species, you can change whatever, you can entitle yourself to, no, to call yourself whatever you want. But there is still the natural sexism and what I said, the sexual value of a man that sleeps around. It's it's a gallant, it's a star, it's the,
Mm-hmm.
it gets a trophy, it
Yeah.
collects the trophies, like
Male slut is honored,
on
female
the
slut is
girls,
dishonored. Yeah.
and the girls that sleep around will be still the sluts. There is
Yeah.
not a real sexual liberation when it comes to this, view, but it's all about personal choice. And I don't know, I don't think we need to dictate or force change in any way.
What world do you hope is present for your grandchildren? What would you like to see changed by the time your grandchildren are experiencing it?
I would like to just the word be a little safe, much more safe than today, or be safer as we felt before.
Mm-hmm.
In this, I don't think I need to think about that in the sexuality. I think we are very progressive and we are very anti pedophilia. The kids are well protected, let's say, uh,
Okay.
in that sense, more than we were, like my generation. We didn't talk about this. I was 15 dating at 24 years old. And even my parents were like totally fine, like everybody, like just my grandma left home when she was 12 to get
Mm-hmm.
married a generation before there. So I think it's we socially we are evolving, we're doing better than before. um I want to keep my children more than I think I was protected, you know um but I think, in question of sexuality, I don't think we have to worry, and things are going to be
Mm-hmm.
natural. And have expectations or try to control is probably the source of suffering of so many people on both sides.
Having expectations and trying to control is the cause of the conflict.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. The idea of the old conservative parents that once their main crisis of their kids growing was, is it going to be a cisgender or is going to be gay, which was the taboo of that
Yeah.
area. Parents
Yeah.
like probably kicking kids out of their house because they came out of the closet as gay. I
Yep.
think now I was like,
Hi,
what,
mom.
my kids will definitely surprise me with something. I don't need to
Hi,
have.
mom, who refused to speak to me for a decade. Anyway.
You see, so yeah, I think now when I think of my kids, I'm pregnant. When people say, "Oh, which sex do you expect?" Like, and I was like, I would like one of them. I prefer if it comes boy or girl. I don't care, and I don't
Mhm.
mind if they will become man or woman.
Mhm.
Whatever. I
That's
think
good.
I will give them tools, and they will be able to make their choice whenever they are ready. And I'll support them. I hope that like they don't do anything bad to other people, so we keep the minimum rules,
Yep.
respect other people's bodies and properties, and be happy.
Veronica and I would love to know what you mean by war more clearly.
I think it was more of the feeling of men and women or adversaries and not
Mm.
partners, which I see in a lot of groups. I've heard from feminist friends when they try to give everything that doesn't happen the way they expect, it's the others, is the partner's responsibility. So
Yeah. Yeah.
go out dating, doesn't work, they have a lot of expectations. And sometimes I even say, like, are you guys offering that much as you guys are expecting? Because like, I'm no Angelina Jolie, so it's kind of a silly if I expect to find a Brad Pitt and keep
Uh,
blaming the guys,
so,
and like nobody reaches my expectations, fulfill my
I got
requirements.
a feed in my last I don't know over the last week or something of Billie Eilish whose
Oh my
music I
gosh,
really
yeah,
like.
I sent you
I might
that video.
Hey, did you send that?
Yeah.
Okay, it's your fault.
So it's
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, saying, "Stop dating ugly men,
It's a
because you're
reaction of a guy.
empowering
I
men."
don't follow him, but yeah, I think it's someone super famous who made a video about him reacting to Billie Eilish video saying, "Don't give a chance to ugly men," something like that.
Hmm.
Tell me what annoyed you, what keeps coming back on your
The
mind
thing that
now.
annoyed me was she was playing directly into, a narrative from the incel or the men going their own way, group that say that women are just trying to raise the standards and exclude people and demonize people who don't fit their, expectations.
Well, it's for me, I was laughing, of course, at the video because it's funny. The guys are funny.
Hmm.
They have good
Was it a
points.
joke? Was it a parody?
They are watching her and they're making fun of her because they say like, "Oh my gosh, look at her! She has huge teeth and whatever." You know, like they were talking about
Billie
her.
Eilish?
Yeah,
Does
that she
Billie Eilish have
used
large
all the
breasts?
baggy clothes and stuff because she wants to hide the big teeth. She doesn't want to be objectified.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
show what
But
you want, don't show what
the
you don't
point,
want. I
it's
hadn't
like,
noticed, actually. I listened to her more than look.
yeah, no, I enjoy her art and her look too. I'm fine. She's more like a tomboy and has all this thing. It's interesting. Their point is good because they're like, wow, if it's bad to fat shaming or body shaming or like judge people or give them, to give numbers to girls like 0 to 10
Yeah,
stuff like that. Isn't that what she's doing with those guys saying like, oh, if he's like if
exactly.
5'4" or under, no chance. But
Yeah.
girls do that all the time, and maybe that is the hypocrisy of both sides when they criticize each other and they say like, don't do that to me.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Again,
yeah,
we
in
come
general,
to
I don't want to do that to people. I'm remembering Tim mention I don't wanna make the appearance of someone their primary value. I think many of my heroes are ugly people, uh, and that's fine. Um, and I think ugly is also in the eye of the
this
beholder.
team meeting. I thought about the Prejudice song because the one that he still says, "But God, I love boobs, though."
Yes, yes, I love Tim mention. Yes, I love that song.
It's really good. Yeah.
Confessions, I think it's called.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I thought it was like the Prejudice because it's like the
There's also Prejudice.
yeah.
That's another one that's really, really good, and no spoilers. Uh, I
No, I
won't talk
think my
about
favorite is Thank You God because that
it.
is,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yes.
makes sense
Tim
amount.
mention fan club round here. Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Oh yeah, I would love to go to a show.
Mhm. I wonder if he's still doing those. Anyway.
Yes, yes, I actually checked. I keep like just picking over all the people that are famous and still doing shows around, and I was like, I wish I could go.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
So
So,
Veronica asks what war means in this case, and would we want to change the claim if we define war more clearly?
mm,
Because clearly, I don't see a trend of artillery or sharpshooters or any of these kind of things. I think the only thing we're talking about is speech in public and actions in private that are sex or gender uh, motivated.
well, maybe there is maybe is that small of a community, but loud enough to make the independent media talk about, let's say, as we asked, what is a woman and how that could be offensive to some groups. At the same time,
Mm,
you have
arguing about the term woman, whether it refers to sex or gender.
yeah. Now I would say like that is one side where the conservatives want to set those frames or to reinforce
Yep.
the the definitions that we had.
Hmm.
And there is another small group who wants to like fight that, debunk that, to create like maybe even make the woman be a more fluid term and
Hmm.
not even like defined, let's say. uh and there's like other guys that are just there are isolated niches. I've heard recently of, not recently because it has been a couple months, that there were guys being banned and deleted from internet because they were examples of toxic masculinity, which I always thought was
Mm.
a mythical term, let's say.
I I'm revolted against a term that couldn't be turned around. If I would be canceled by saying toxic femininity, then I shouldn't say toxic masculinity. If I would be, if I shouldn't be allowed to say toxic blackness, I shouldn't be allowed to say toxic whiteness. We're associating something with a category of people, mostly in terms of immutable characteristics, and saying they have a special kind of toxicity that is common with them and not with us. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
can I have a different word, please?
Yeah, I would agree with you, but then I would say that maybe we can also agree with some people saying, like, look, there are these examples of toxic masculinity. If you
Hmm.
can go find what they said that is toxic masculinity, or which type of behavior would be toxic masculinity, where it comes from, um, and also parallel that to show examples of toxic femininity, because they were talking about guys that talk about sleeping around, having many partners, because this is
Sure.
part of like, because this is written in the scriptures and the Bible, man. You see it in the Bible, the guys always had many wives, and no woman had many husbands, something like that. I was like, okay, it's just an idiot with a Bible, in my opinion. But I don't actually think it should be banned, from the internet, let's say,
Hmm.
to give this title toxic masculinity. They become
I,
martyrs, and then they
I got
get
shut down
more.
on a Discord for 3 days by a bot by quoting a summary of Genesis 34. When I came back on, the mods said, "Oh, you were fine. We'll fix that in here. Let me modify the bots so that and so on." So they were cool with it. But I got caught up. I got caught up in the sweep. Whoom, by summarizing the Bible in a conversation about the topic. I think in this case about circumcision. Genesis 34. Great. The first introduction to circumcision in the Bible. Check it out for yourself. It's
You
pleasant.
should have told me. I
Not.
would leave my Bible next, so
Yeah, that's fine. Genesis 34. It's good
the
stuff.
shows gets longer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Let's
no,
not
but
get
yeah.
off in the Bible study.
So there is like people doing this side, but I've heard of internet culture. Let's say, go
Mhm.
around, you see girls bragging on masters, or sometimes not like putting their face out there, but like uh, people writing, uh, let's say, anonymous letters on the internet telling that they abuse the dating app to dig out like free meals, and
Mhm.
not do like kind of abuse, let's say, uh, guys that have this sexual interest on them and they feel justified. I don't know. I would say that that could be a good example of toxic femininity, to just to
Hmm.
put there on the other side of the scale when you talk about
Oh yeah, I guess I would just go for the
examples of
stereotype thing.
behaviors or.
If I was looking for what would be toxic in each case, the stereotypical thing would be uh, uh, angry, intimidating man, and maybe and this is stereotypes, woman sneaking behind, gossiping, and being very catty in conversation, those kind of things. And I can certainly find examples of both men and women doing both of those sets of things, no problem. But one stereotypically associated with one and not the other. So yeah, I could find toxicity um, that follow stereotypes.
That's a funny point. Uh,
Gay
people,
toxic. Oh,
people
you
say,
bitches. Anyway.
no, no, no. I actually read here the Christianity is so persecuted
Uh,
you can't even quote the Bible without being banned on social media. Laughing. So that is an interesting one because yeah, the people that they say like those like I think it was Andrew Tate that he
mhm.
makes a lot of quotes. He brings a lot of quotes based
Mm,
on the Bible and consider
mm.
toxic masculinity, but people even don't even put together that the Bible and all the religious doctrines are sexist in a very very negative way all the time.
Yes.
It's like
I
not
haven't
people.
looked up Andrew Tate. I've only heard this is a person who's shown up and being canceled, and they are a provocateur, often compared to Milo Yiannopoulos. Is that about right?
They're quite a different characters, huh?
Okay.
I don't know, like I was really impressed the way that they destroy Mile. I never heard of Andrew Tate until he got banned, and then I went to try to find the
Mhm.
quotes, and is they really.
Canceling has been the best thing for both of those guys.
But Milo,
Their fame is
I
based on being
enjoyed
canceled.
Milo characters. I always laughed, and I loved Milo. I, I don't think nobody should be banned. You know, if they have bad ideas, let them
Yeah.
show themselves, expose
They have
themselves.
definitely not effectively been banned. I mean, there
Yeah,
might be
and
some
when they
areas
ban,
they're
like I
allowed
said,
to,
it
but
feels
their fame is based
justified.
on
Huh?
that.
It's one of the ideas of the cults, and everything becomes like a little bit religious. When they get banned, they feel persecuted and
Mhm.
justified. They become martyrs and just get more attention. And
Yeah.
it's the Streisand effect.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say Streisand, but you beat me to it. Yeah, indeed. What do you hope might change? Do you hope that anything might change between the sexes?
Hmm. Well, I think the way that we've been doing, increasing respect, you know, in a way that we are really treated equally and try to keep the panel not on any of the extremes because we understand that those are ideas that normally come and go. People sometimes feel more revolutionary now that they are treated equally more than before to fight
Mhm.
for that when might not. It's probably a constant fight to keep ourselves free, you
Mhm.
know, the freedom of the individual. uh, but I guess I would like to see more of people being charitable to each other. The do not have the extreme feminists or the incels. I understand that the incels might be something more naturally occurred. It's not because that's the term involuntary celibates. That it's not that they chose. You know, like the kids in church school they say, oh no, I'm a virgin, but it's an option, it's a personal option. It's not what
Sure, sure.
happens to the incels. So I see, I don't know, did I send you that video? I sent to probably everybody the I think it was a Matt Walsh talking about people reacting to Jordan Peterson crying when he talks about the incels when uh yeah, he gets interviewed about if he is really the leader of incels, and he's like, why not? And then he gets emotional, he cries, and of course everybody's like, oh, he's weak because he cried. And I thought it was just maybe exaggerate the reaction, but I understand that he just empathized. Maybe he has seen himself in that position at some
Yeah.
point, you know, to be.
Next time somebody sees me cry, y'all come over here and we'll do push-ups. Show you who's weak.
Yeah, so I just thought was like an interesting perspective because I feel a lot like that about a lot of groups that are demonized. I think we should be more charitable, and if they are this group that involuntarily celibates, they might need more support and attention, or maybe help, just
Okay.
the way that he wants to really put out there to teach guys to be motivated and to work on themselves, to better themselves.
Clean the room.
I
Sure.
think
Yeah.
it should be in general, and not to necessarily say to man or woman, but to everybody, to better themselves, to try to make more relationships. And if it's not working, and if it's something general, they might need to improve themselves instead of blame others, because I've
And don't
seen
try to go date Billie Eilish. She doesn't want anything to do with you.
that. Yeah, and don't care about. I've always said that about uh, people feeling less attractive, and having that quite confronted a lot of times, like people around sometimes say, well, because you never had this problem, you're pretty, you're sexy, you're smart, intelligent. It's like, whoa, you know what, uh no miracles, but there's a lot of people can improve themselves and better themselves, and
Yeah.
and don't feel defeated. And that's, I think that is probably the message out there. I would like to see people feeling better with themselves, finding themselves, and I think that would make everybody better, the environment already better, for sure.
Mm.
All this anger that some groups have towards each other is just not productive. It's counterproductive to us. We
Mhm.
need to work together. So that's the idea of like not having a war of sexes.
Are
Maybe
there
not.
areas where we should be angry with each other between groups? Are there areas where the anger is appropriate and maybe socially helpful?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think it's just like I said. It's not that I don't think I'm not a feminist. I just don't think there's need to be a feminist where I live, where I am right now. I think there is much. If I could, if you and we should all and try to improve the areas where
Mhm.
women are subjugated and oppressed by regimes, like by gender, just because, yeah, because you were born with a vagina, you're gonna have
Mhm.
to dress this way, no driving, you know, and many
Mhm.
other restrictions on your freedoms and rights,
Yeah.
be treated as objects, or recently, I guess they say they are humans, or they're life beings at least. So yeah, I think there's a lot of more cultures to improve. The only thing, uh, I might not be in an urgent fight because I don't personally live through this, but I feel deeply sad when I remember how many places we could have been born and have a very different
Oh,
life
yeah.
experience.
Tehran.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I am angry at Putin. I am angry at the religious police that are being demonstrated against in Iran.
Yeah.
I think those are righteous anger. I think I'm correct to be angry. And I think me yelling about it is would improve the world. I think. Can you see exceptions to those, or can you think of examples that would be not clear in that case?
Oh, uh, no, I think people should be free, should feel free even more than today. I think very few of us feel free to actually speak out our minds about those subjects. And
Mhm.
if more people could manifest their disagreement with so many things that go wrong on those regimes that are kept just because of traditions,
Mhm.
would be properly reformed earlier, for sure. It might have some impact. We cannot be, I don't want to be nihilistic in the sense of nothing matters, or nothing that we can do will actually matter, that we cannot make any change. I think if we think like that, is one of the examples. It happens on the, I guess, elections. People sometimes just don't go vote because they think their vote will not make any difference, and so
Mhm.
many people might be taken by those ideas, not go there, not give their not put their voice out there, and maybe it could we're never gonna know. The idea
Yeah.
of giving up before trying, it's something that I want to keep away
Yeah.
from my thoughts, because I think we should always do, if we think there is something that matters. If it's just spread the news and say, hey, there are really bad things happening there, and there are so many people engaged, even if it's just on the, let's say, on the online activity, I think the voice would be heard. It would at least motivate. There is people there in Iran on the protests, have the support. Like, let's say, what is a moral support when they're when they're being beaten on the head? Is hard to say that you're doing much.
Hmm.
Becomes almost like on the woke, the book, Andrew Doyle, Titanium McGrath, which is the parody of a ultra feminist activist. She says, the good thing about nowadays is that you don't really need to do anything factual to help. You can just protest on the internet, and as a joke, which is funny, I guess, but
You don't have
and
to do
sometimes
anything
make
factual.
us.
I didn't understand what that. How does
Yeah,
factual?
that you're not actually doing anything in reality to help, but to protest online.
The internet's in reality.
Well, I guess the
I
Twitter
really am
world
talking
is
to you.
really small, and no, the word is real, guys. Don't fall on that. It's not Matrix, and I think we do have a voice, and things make change. Uh, to have that support, even if it's something like you said, virtual.
Yeah, yeah. Virtual activity
you
is
know
activity.
it's still real in the sense that people need support. I think the internet is something marvelous in the sense to make us connect, when before we would be geographically isolated. Sometimes it's still today, you can be in the middle of a nation that is very religious and oppressive and authoritarian, and we have all these people from India, Saudi Arabia, Iran, communicating and saying how oppressed they are,
Hmm.
reaching out to organizations that can in fact help them in some way physically to get out of those places. But uh, I have my questions about going to free people over there.
Hmm.
When I'm very anti-war, and every time I face types of arts, movies, books. This one that I recently read, she was in Afghanistan, she lost friends there, and we just think how horrible it is to even think of war, even if it's to liberate other people. So it's a question in my mind all the time. But definitely there are people who we still need to fight for their freedom.
Yeah. So at the end of the show, we're both going to wave, and the AI is going to end the broadcast. But I've also added a little function to it to
Mm.
send. There's a time machine on your side, and it's going to send you back about 100 years. I think there's a dial on the inside you could add or subtract about 10 or 15 years. But you're sorry, it's going to get stuck. Uh, if you go back 100 years, would you be a feminist? What would you do? Given your values now, given your understanding of the future, where would you stand 100 years ago? Oh, sorry, where will you stand after this broadcast ends and I send you back?
Oh, yeah. I guess that was definitely a time where women still needed to fight for many, many rights. It's a good exercise to think that we have evolved this fast.
Okay. I think the thing will bring you back before next week when we meet at 1 p.m. And if not, we might be a little late. That happens. So I look forward to hearing about your feminism activities in 1920 something, and to see where you go. Thanks for this.
Thank you. Is that the time for the wave?
That's the time for the wave. Talk to you later.